So, what if your company's most valuable opportunities are hiding in plain sight? What if they're completely invisible to your current AI systems? Today, we're going to dig into a really powerful new architecture that's designed to find that exact hidden value. A system built to connect the dots that almost everyone else is missing. Let's break down how it works. All right, so here's our game plan. First, we're going to talk about that invisible opportunity that's probably locked away in your data silos. Then, we'll introduce the intelligence layer that actually connects the dots. After that, we'll see how it finds value, what makes it capital grade, which is super important, and finally, how all of this comes together to build a serious, almost unfair advantage. Okay, so let's jump right into the core problem. Most businesses today have some pretty powerful AI, but here's the catch. It's all working in these disconnected silos. Each system is doing its job and probably doing it well, but they just aren't talking to each other. And that creates massive blind spots. And this is really the question you've got to ask yourself. You've got all these systems optimizing sales, marketing, operations, but are they, as a whole, completely blind to the biggest prizes? For most companies, the answer is a surprising yes. I mean, think about it. Your sales AI gets a little better at scoring leads. Your content AI gets a little better at driving engagement. That's all good stuff, but it's just incremental improvement, right? The real game-changing value is in that messy space between all these systems, which is exactly where most AI just can't see. Let me show you what I mean with a quick example. So let's say your sales system flags a high-value lead. It's someone from a big defense contractor, it gives it a great score, and your team gets right on it. A solid standard opportunity. Okay, but then, in a completely separate universe, another one of your systems, maybe a market intelligence tool, it flags a person who owns a bunch of commercial real estate. Interesting, for sure, but a totally disconnected piece of information. And to top it off, a third system identifies a private investor who has a history of backing companies in defense and tech. So you've got three different people, three different opportunities, right? Nope, not even close. So here's the kicker. What happens if those three identities, the contractor, the real estate owner, and the investor, are actually the same person? Well, that single unified opportunity isn't just 3 times more valuable. It's 5, maybe even 10 times more valuable. But because none of your systems can connect those dots, that massive potential just stays completely invisible. So how in the world do you find this hidden value? Well, you need a totally new layer of intelligence. And this is where something called the Meta-Orchestration Layer comes into play. Now, this isn't about ripping out and replacing your existing systems. Not at all. Think of it as an intelligence layer that sits right on top of them. Its whole job is to listen to all the signals coming from your different workflows, look for those tricky cross-domain patterns, and then piece together these incredibly high-value compound opportunities that no single system could ever spot on its own. Okay, so that leads us to the big question. How does this thing actually find value? How does the engine really work? The full architecture is pretty complex, but we can actually boil its core function down into a really clear 3-step process. First, it pulls in or aggregates signals from literally everywhere, and this is key, it verifies them to filter out all the noise. Second, it synthesizes these signals into those compound opportunities we talked about and scores them. And third, it figures out the best way to act on them. Now, that second step, the scoring, that's where things get really different from standard AI. Yeah, this table really shows it all. A normal system might just look at signal strength and call it a day, but a more advanced approach like this one weighs a bunch of different factors. And just look at what's weighted the highest, RO potential. It's not just asking, hey, is this a strong lead? It's asking the much smarter question. Is this the absolute most valuable use of our time and our resources right now? That focus on proven value is what makes the whole system capital grade. And that brings us to what I think is the single most critical differentiator here, this focus on proof over prediction. This is the very heart of what makes an AI system truly capital grade. It's about moving from just guessing to knowing for sure. So check this out, because this is the crucial difference. Most AI out there finds a correlation and basically assumes it's valuable. It's really just a well-educated guess. A capital grade system, on the other hand, finds that same correlation and treats it like a hypothesis. Then it goes and runs hardcore A/B tests to prove if the pattern is real and, maybe even more importantly, to measure its actual real-world value. Let's look at a quick case study to see this in action. The system detected a potential new pattern. It seemed like content using the phrase capital grade was attracting way more qualified leads than content that just said AI automation. So the initial look, which was based on a pretty small sample, suggested this new phrasing was almost 5 times better, a 4.94x lift. I mean, that's huge. But the system didn't just take that and run with it. No way. It ran a controlled A/B test to validate it. And the result? The pattern was definitely real, but its true value was a 2.81x lift. Now that's still fantastic, but it's a whole lot different from the initial guess. And that difference? That's everything. Without that validation step, you would have built your entire strategy around a massively overinflated number. You'd be pouring money and resources into the wrong places, all because you were working off a bad assumption. This validation process gives you the ground truth you need to make genuinely smart, capital-efficient decisions. Okay, so let's get to our final section and put this all together. When you combine this cross-domain intelligence with that rigorous validation, you're not just making little improvements anymore. You are systematically building deep, sustainable competitive advantages, or what you might call moats. And you can see how this just builds over time. Your library of validated patterns gets bigger and bigger, creating a network effect where the whole system just keeps getting smarter. You start making decisions based on proven insights, not just raw data. You start seeing opportunities your competitors literally cannot see. It all compounds, leading to smarter resource allocation and an advantage that becomes incredibly hard for anyone else to even touch. Which really brings us to the perfect way to sum this all up. A system like this isn't just about doing the same old things a little bit better. It's a fundamental shift in your company's entire intelligence architecture. It's about building an engine that systematically finds and then proves the hidden value that everybody else misses, creating a powerful advantage that's baked right into the way you operate.